Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
You know. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City Council meeting for August 20, 2024. And we'll begin with a roll call. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Belsch.
Present.
Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Roden.
Here.
Councilmember Strong.
Present.
Mayor Hammond.
Here. First on the items then we have is a closed session items, real property negotiations and conference with legal counsel. So our Madam Attorney will go ahead and tell us what we're doing.
Sure. We're going to go into closed session on two items. The first is real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. And this relates to various parcels and portions of parcels at the Paso Robles Airport. The agency negotiators are the city manager or his designee, and then negotiating parties on the other side is Lloyd's Aviation PRB LLC. And under negotiation are the price and terms of the fixed-based operator agreement, which is a lease-based agreement. The second item is conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.91. The name of the case is John Forst versus the City of El Paso de Robles. And it's case number 23 CVP 2023-0156.
Very good. Thank you, Elizabeth. We'll open it up to public comment. Anyone wishing to have any questions on the closed session items before we can adjourn? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring it back to us, and we'll make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to recess.
Motion by Strong, second by Gregory. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Good evening, everybody. This is the Paso City Council meeting for August 20. If we can go ahead and get to the right part of the program here. We're going to reconvene and go ahead and call roll call, please.
Councilmember Bausch.
Present.
Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Roden.
Here.
Councilmember Strong.
Present.
Mayor Hammond.
Here. And if we would all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilman Roden.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have Pastor Gabe for us for the invocation.
First, I want to say thank you for allowing the leaders, spiritual leaders, to be a part of this, and we do. And I pray for you guys every day. Father God, we thank you because you are the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. We thank you, Lord God, that you are omnipotent, you're omniscient, and you're omnipresent. I pray, God, that you would impart, Lord, to every man, every woman here, Lord God, wisdom, Lord God, so they can make and articulate the right decisions, Lord God, for our city. God, I pray, God, your blessing upon their lives, Lord God, not just these people that are here, but their families, their children, Lord God, and everything else that's going on in their life. Thank you, Lord God, that we are a community that really wants to uphold some real strong standards. So I ask, Lord God, your blessing upon this meeting tonight for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. And we'll begin with the staff introductions on my right.
Melissa Boyer, City Clerk, joined by Shauna Howenstein, Civic Engagement Coordinator, and Karen Jackson, IT Technician.
Warren Frace, Community Development Director.
Edith Esperanza, Capital Projects Engineer.
Christopher Alecco, Utilities Director.
Freedom Herman,
Randy Harris, Director. Jamie North, Leader Commander. Airport Manager Mark Scandell.
Chris Hewitt, Assistant City Manager.
And Elizabeth Hull, City Attorney.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have a report out from closed session. Elizabeth, can you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We went into closed session on two items. The first was real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. The property is various parcels and portions of parcels at the Paso Robles Airport, located generally at 4900 Wing Way. The second item was conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigation. John Borst versus the city again, and there was no reportable action on either item.
Very good. Next, we have presentations. Airport update. Mr. Skandalis, do you have that for us?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mark Skandalis, Airport Manager, here to give a brief update on the airport, including our FBO negotiations and our upcoming Airport Commission meeting. So for the FBO negotiations on August 8th, the city and our consultants sat down in person with Lloyd's Aviation to discuss the details of the fuel services contract. We came to an agreement on the services to be provided, and the negotiated points are now being incorporated into a lease agreement. We expect to bring the FBO lease agreement and the three short-term leases, which are Mercy Air, Joe's Diner, and Soar Paso, back to City Council on September 17th. For an anticipated start date of the new lease agreements of October 1st. And then in addition to that, we have an Airport Commission meeting this Thursday. We're going to have presentations from Master Sergeant Kane from the Air Force's Combat Control Team, presentation on the airport land use plan updates that's in conjunction with our master plan update, and a recommendation of a new aviation business, which is a mobile mechanic working on aircraft. Concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions you have.
Very good. Thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mr. Skandalis? Very good. Anybody from the public wishing to have a question on this? Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Next, we have the Central Coast Community Energy Annual Presentation. Judith Young, are you here?
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Judy Young, Senior Account Manager with Central Coast Community Energy, or 3CE. And while 3CE serves 35 communities from Santa Cruz to Santa Barbara, I am a Paso Robles resident. So tonight, I'm going to quickly go over who 3CE is because not everyone knows. We're a new type of government agency. We were formed about 6 years ago when all of these cities and counties got together and said, what if we purchased the electricity to serve our region? Could we do it better? As a local public agency, could we be competitive in price, make greater progress on renewables, and provide investment back into our communities? And I'm here tonight to show you how we're doing and what benefits are being offered right here in Paso Robles. As our agency has grown, our investment in our communities has increased. Our budget for community energy programs in fiscal year 23-24 is over $16.8 million, which are funds that are available to the city and to your constituents to help reduce emissions by electrifying vehicles and buildings. To date, on behalf of all of the cities and counties we serve, we have invested $4.5 billion in new renewable energy and energy storage projects, which are making the grid cleaner and helping the environment by reducing fossil fuel emissions. Some of those projects include new technologies that are pushing the envelope towards 100% clean and renewable power, like a compressed air storage project, which will be the largest in the world of its kind. We have power purchase agreements in negotiation or in place to cover 80% of our annual load with renewable energy. The challenge is in bringing these projects online in a timely manner due to the current backlog in California around permitting and grid connection and delays in transmission upgrades. And yet so much progress is being made. If you haven't heard, the amount of renewable energy on the grid has been exceeding customer demand in California on nearly a daily basis this spring for as many as 9 hours a day. This is a huge accomplishment, and agencies like 3CE and our partners like the City of Paso Robles are very much a part of the reason why. Not only are the renewable projects that we've contracted with contributing to the solution, but they are also achieving cost savings for our customers. And because of a decision by our policy board last year, these projects are being evaluated based on their commitment to local community engagement, environmental protection, and workforce support. And another place that we are investing is in agriculture. We provide funding assistance for all electric farm equipment to replace diesel-powered pumps, tractors, and more. We have helped big and small farms in all 5 of the counties that we serve. So here's a summary of the residential, commercial, and ag rebates that are available to our customers, including the ever-popular Electrify Your Ride, which offers rebates for new and used vehicles, including battery electric, plug-in hybrid electric, and motorcycles from $1,000 to $4,000, depending on income and the type of vehicle. And we can also help with EV readiness and residential chargers up to an additional $4,700. I also have a brand new program to tell you about tonight. It's very exciting. It's called the Residential Battery Rebate Program, and it provides rebates of $300 or $500 per kilowatt hour, depending on income. As an example, for a battery installation with 13 kilowatt capacity, which is like the standard Tesla Powerwall, a customer receiving the standard rebate of $300 per kilowatt hour would get a rebate of $3,900, and customers who qualify for the larger $500 rebate per kilowatt hour would receive $6,500, which combined with other available rebates could cover the total cost of battery and installation. So specifically in the city of Paso Robles, 3CE has invested over $413,000 through energy programs, primarily as Electrify Your Ride rebates to community members. And tonight I really want to emphasize the offers we have specifically for the city and city staff. As you know, California has strict mandates for electrifying fleets. We understand that this is a major undertaking for local governments, and we are here to help. We have funding to help you plan how you're going to make the transition, how many EVs you need to purchase and when, where you will charge those EVs, what's the best time to charge them, and so on. After your plan is complete, we have funding to help pay for the vehicles and funding for the charging infrastructure itself. We also offer funding to help cities adopt REACH codes, which go beyond state requirements to drive lower emissions in buildings and increase the number of chargers available. And I also host a quarterly call for the staff of our local governments that make up 3CE, where I go over all of these opportunities. And if any of you would like to learn more about what we offer, I'm happy to set up a meeting. And the last thing I'll add tonight is that the applications for all of these programs are on our website, 3ce.org or 3cenergy.org, and there's a handy little QR code that you can use to go to the website. So I hope I have provided a good picture of what our agency is doing to bring clean energy and community investment to the city of Paso Robles. And in closing, on behalf of everyone at 3CE, we thank you for the opportunity to be your clean electricity provider, to support you and to be your partner. And thank you so much for your time this evening. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Judith. Any questions for Judith Young? Anyone from the public ask any questions? Linda?
Hi.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and let Linda ask a question.
Hi, Linda George, 3126 Spring Street. My question is kind of simple. I just am curious about, you're talking about a fleet of cars for the city? And if that is so, what is the likelihood that it's actually going to be a sustainable program for us? That's all.
Yeah. You're asking specifically how it's going to be sustainable? No. Why don't you explain that? Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. With California state mandates to move towards clean and renewable energy, local governments are putting in place plans to transition fleet vehicles, their own fleet vehicles, police, fire, small, medium, heavy-duty vehicles, to electric. And we offer rebates and assistance, consultants to help with the planning and paying for that transition.
Right. Yeah, we're considering that. And so, again, we're looking at it.
I'm here for you. Just reach out.
Very good, Ruth, Judith.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You bet. Item 3, recognition of a friend, actually K9 Renzo. Actually, if I could have Officer Joe Stanley come on up, please. You know, one of my favorite dogs in the parks was one of our K9s, Renzo, and Joe Stanley was his handler. So I would like to, if you can, we're going to play a little video on Renzo, and then maybe we ask a couple questions after.
Yeah, of course.
They say a good dog's a man's best friend. Lord knows mine was one of them. Over the years and through the miles, he stayed right there by my side. From taking walks and chasing balls, running up and down our halls. There's memories I won't forget. I know he's not here, but man, I bet if good dogs go to heaven, that's where mine's gotta be. Jumping through the waves and playing fetch on the beach by the crystal sea. I bet he's riding around with Grandpa on those shiny golden streets. And if good dogs go to heaven, he'll be at those pearly gates, waiting on me.
sorry to report we lost Renzo recently. So, Joe, can you tell us a little bit about our canine friend?
Yeah, so Renzo and I started at Paso at 2020. He came all the way from the Czech Republic. He was trained in patrol and drug detection. You know, not many people know about the bond that a handler and a dog or their canine have, but Renzo and I spent close to every waking moment with each other. So we go to work. I wake up in the morning. You know, most of a handler's day is taking care of his dog and going to work with him. And he was very special to me and the department. And when he was gone, I didn't realize some of the most important work we did was the demos and being out in public and stuff like that. And we're just very, very honored to have served this city in that way. And, you know, we just really appreciate the opportunity. And it was just one of the best times of my life. So,
well, we're sorry for your loss, and ours too, obviously. And
yeah,
is there, how many other canines do we have on the force right now?
That is Renzo was the only canine.
One, right?
So, yeah. Atascadero PD has 2 canines, and the sheriff's office obviously has canines, but Renzo was Paso PD's only canine.
Yeah, I think most people don't realize too that the dog stays with you at home too. You take him home; he's basically your pet, and you know he's a working dog, but you're all together all the time, pretty much. So
all the time.
Yeah.
You know, much of my life revolved caring for him, getting ready for work, and as much sometimes he frustrated me, you know, I loved every second of being with that dog, and it was one of the greatest honors of my life, being his partner. So.
Wow. And one of the dogs in my park, I'm definitely looking for another one. So
yeah.
Thank you very much, Joe, for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. So now we'll move on to public comment. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of hard to see an animal, you know, that worked so hard for you, and all of a sudden he's gone. So it's one of those things. All right, we're going to move on to public comment. This is the time that public may address the council on items within its purview, but not scheduled on tonight's agenda. Council or staff may briefly respond to statements or questions posed by the public. Please fill out a speaker card and give it to our city clerk before speaking. Speakers will have 3 minutes. Those people wishing to speak on any item scheduled tonight's agenda will be given that opportunity at the time when the item is considered. So I'll start off with Michael.
Mr. Mayor, first of all, bad subject. It grieved me a great deal to see the mayor take to task a sitting city council member. I thought it was inappropriate. I think Chris Bouse needs an apology. I would hope that that would be public. The fact that there were prepared statements prior to that unfortunate exhibit, I think Chris is owed an apology. So with that being said, now on the positive, I just want to say as a member of the Citizens Academy this time around, I want to thank Chris Hout, who did a wonderful job of directing and leading the first meeting. He did it in a professional, very direct, friendly way, transparent. What a wonderful difference to have somebody like Mr. Hout's personality as part of that whole agenda. Because, you know, you have citizens who aren't deep into the weeds of the politics and all the other nonsense that goes on here from time to time. So it was a breath of fresh air to see Mr. Hout lead that group. And I would hope that you would give him kudos for the first meeting, because first impressions are important. Wouldn't you agree? Because it's hard to make up for bad types of circumstances, especially on this dais, because many people are depending on this body to lead them into the future, because you guys have significant power over the future direction of the city. And that's why I'm running for city council, because I want to be part of that. And I want to be part of a positive, wonderful, robust, and well-planned city that doesn't get over their skis, as I've mentioned before, but is resolute and sober about the impacts that the decisions of this dais has on our community. Thank you.
And Michael, also, just to let you know, it's Mr. Huat. Chris Huat.
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Dave Nelson, Crown Way, Paso Robles. First, I want to recognize Melissa Boyer and the city clerk's office for all the work they've done preparing for the election coming up, including this binder, verifying everyone's signatures, getting candidates ready. Lots of things in here, lots of information I learned. So thank you, Melissa. One of the things I learned from this is that all the council members and candidates are under this code of civility, which is good to know. I think Michael just spoke about some of these things. We should be civil with each other. This is a friendly town, and there's no reason to attack people. So with that in mind, I'd like to welcome the 4 new candidates that are running to serve on the council. Michael Rivera is one, Chris Beal, Jeff Carr, and Linda behind, Linda George. So welcome them to a civil contest. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Tim, welcome.
Hey, John. Hi, my name is Tim Francis. I am the Post Service Officer for the American Legion over here in the east part of this city. How many in here are veterans? Anybody? How many in here have family members that are veterans? Good, good, because this is all about you too. So the American Legion, just to give you a little brief overview on it, is the largest and most influential organization for the U.S. veterans with over 1.6 million members in 12,000 locations. Members log in millions of hours of community service. I mean, that's what we're here for, is be part of the community. We volunteer and we raise up more than $1.5 million will be raised for VA hospitals. One of our key roles is something we just did. We did a Pledge of Allegiance when we started this. We teach children about the flag, the origins of the flag, and even how to fold a flag, properly. We give funds and scholarships and provide support for wounded service members, and we distribute emergency aid to disaster victims. We have 4 large pillars that talk about things that we're supposed to do as Legion members, but I'm only going to talk about a couple of them. Some of you may have known that we've been promoting veteran-owned businesses in the city of Paso Robles, having events at it. We just did Veledas, we did Boniche, and now we're going to do Cal Coast beer. There are many businesses in the city that are veteran-owned. We're bringing awareness of who owns businesses here that are veterans and what they provide for us. So we do the Taco Takedown. That's one of the events we're going to be doing. Also, I just let you know that we have put together the registry that the Chamber of Commerce has for veteran-owned businesses in the city because they didn't have one. So we're helping them out with that. Some of you also know we do a hamburger luncheon on Thursdays over at the Veteran Hall from 11 to 1. It's one of our biggest money makers, okay? we take that money and we invest it back into the community for scholarship programs. We're also doing something on the 31st. There's a international music on the porch day. We're going to have local artists here in the Paso Robles area that will be playing music that they've written. And we invite you all to come and hear that. And I'll put flyers out for this before I leave. Please take pictures. Let's be green. And the final thing is we're doing the poker run on the 8th of September over at the hall too. So and there'll be a flyer on that.
Motorcycles, right?
What's that?
Motorcycles, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. That is the American Legion of Riders. Okay, so and lastly, the last thing I want to say is you can all be a part of the Legion, and I encourage you, veterans, I'll look for you. And so I guess I'm wrapping up. Yeah. But I'll put the flyers out here. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Tim.
Hi.
Welcome.
Linda George, 3126 Spring Street. Can you come closer? I came up to break the ice for my pet sitter. If it wasn't for Janice, when I had my bilateral cataract surgery, I don't know what I would have done with my dogs. Sometimes I can't see you guys over there. You're all blurry, and sometimes it's more fun. Anyways, at the Planning Commission, because I don't want to see you make faces at me. Okay, so the Planning Commission this week or last week, I believe it was, they're overhauling their ordinances, their zoning ordinances, which is great. They look good. Except, as you know, I've said this before, since 2019, I have been fighting against AB 5, which is that outlawed 1 million independent contractor jobs in California. I nationally fight against the PRO Act. They outlawed 70 million independent contractor jobs in America this year. Okay. And so I'm trying to get a full repeal. I listened to the Planning Commission for my own concerns that I'll voice to you guys another day. But then I hear about the home occupation section. And in that section, it was added pet sitter and wine taster and another few occupations that I'd have to look at the agenda or the presentation to remember. I immediately called my pet sitter and said, you know, one of the biggest problems I have with what they've done, it is too much power, and I think other people will agree with me, for a staff member or a council or a state legislature to outlaw somebody's job. And in effect, putting pet sitter in that, wine taster, and any other kinds of occupations that were added in there, that just effectively outlawed her work. And I was very flabbergasted by it because as I said to the Planning Commission, they have just learned who I am, as you guys know. I said that nobody should have the ability to quash anybody's job or entrepreneurship in this country, this state, or this city. So somewhere along the line, if we can get the magic words be said, I think Jeff Carr's aware of this, but I think that pet sitter, in particular, that is for some people synonymous to childcare. Like I said, I had to go out of town to get my surgery, so I had no idea what I was going to do with my dogs, and she kept them. So the presumption is kennels, barking, overnight, those types of things. But what I would like to see is if whatever way that we can get somebody to talk to the Planning Commission and or whoever's writing these ordinances to make sure that they tailor them. How about a pet sitter that doesn't have kennels? A pet sitter that has 4 kennels but not 5? That kind of stuff. And then maybe somewhere along the line, everybody can keep their occupations in Paso.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening to the board. My name is Janice Sewell. My business is Pet Nanny Paso. I've been a resident of Paso Robles since 1990, retiring from the state service after 18 years in our community and fostering numerous dogs. Excuse me.
Is it possible for me to speak on her behalf?
Yes.
Can I read it?
Yes.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. My name's Sean Connolly. I'm a resident here, 2019 Kleck Road. And Janice is our pet nanny for our little beagle. So she wrote here that I'm here to address my concerns as to pet sitting with overnight stays for the home occupation category. To prohibit overnight stays would be a disservice to our community and tourism. Pets are now becoming just as important as family members to us. Families make it a point to travel with their pets by car, stay in our Airbnbs and local hotels. But unfortunately, pets are not to be left alone in those hotels. So not allowing them the option of boarding within the city limits would be very inconvenient for several reasons. Number one, location could be a factor. They would possibly have to travel further, which would endure more frustration for those who do not live in the area. Maneuvering through the county and city limits can be challenging. To drop off a pet at a pet sitter, especially at night, and can be consuming. Locals that are new to the area and do not have any family or friends may find it harder to find overnight boarding options. Side note to that, that would be my wife and I. We moved here 7.5 years ago. Didn't know anybody, and it was because of somebody like her we were able to have our 2 beagles taken care of and gave us peace of mind that they were being well taken care of. Continuing, says high demand for boarding due to the increase of tourism and pets in general. And as we know in this community, that is a big thing. People coming to our community and bringing their pets. We see it every day in the park, especially on the weekends, people with their dogs coming from out of the area. They do need a place to house their animals and pets when they're wine tasting, enjoying the area where their pets aren't allowed.
You can summarize, please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So basically what she's bringing out is out of the area, special situations and events are very important to her service, and people depend on that. Appreciate your time and your attention. If there's any questions, feel free.
Have you given this to our staff as far as information yet? And if not, then I would definitely give it to them so we can review things.
Okay.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome.
Hi. Hi, Steve. I am Mary Jo Silva. This is the first time I've ever done this.
No problem.
I am a homeowner in downtown Paso, and I own a business in downtown Paso, and I'm a dog lover, and Janice is my pet sitter. And so back in 2022, I was looking for a place for my dog. He's large, and we have a small yard. And I wanted him to have a yard where he could go and run and socialize and play with other dogs. There are other options, right? There's boarding facilities, but that would stress him out. They're in a kennel and then they're let out to do yard play and then they're back in the kennel. And imagine that for overnight. So I have got the best situation right now, and I don't want you guys to take it away from me. I am actually planning a trip to go visit family in Washington State, so keep that in mind. So Janice has this lovely backyard, and the dogs can freely go in and out. There are no kennels. Nobody is locked up. When they spend the night, which sometimes has to happen. I cannot always take my dogs on vacation with me. When they spend the night, they're sleeping in the house. They're sleeping in her bedroom. They're with her. They're getting the love that they're missing from us. And it's so important. They're on a routine. They're getting their food and everything. So as a small business owner, please do not take that service away from another small business owner. It is so important for her to have that, for her business, and it's important for other small business owners who work 7 days a week and need to take a vacation everywhere sometimes, and they want a place for their dog to go that's safe. That's all I can think of.
Very
Thank
good.
you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you. Welcome, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff Carr, Paso Robles. I have to speak on this issue. I think I've already sent you an email on this issue before about this somewhat arbitrary disallowing and prohibiting and allowing certain businesses. And I've been inquiring about it since February of this year. And I have other questions that I've been inquiring about since before then. But they send out these notices to review the draft of the zoning code. They say, send your comments and ask your questions. And I do, and they do not respond. So like I said, I had these questions about the home occupation specifically since February of this year, and I've sent it to them numerous times since then. And I said, I have other questions, but if you're not going to answer these, why should I send more? And so, yeah, obviously the pet sitter with overnight stays really shocked me. It just suddenly showed up. And that when I was reviewing the document, but there's other things. There were some very vague statements about automotive repair. And there were some things, no mobile oil changing was going to be allowed, and that had been allowed before. No massage as a home occupation, and some others too. And if you look down, I looked at the license lists that are on the city website, and people are doing these things. So I'm wondering, and I even asked in my inquiries, have you contacted these people and told them you're putting them out of business? No response. No response on that either. So here we go. Since February, I've been trying to work this, and now we're at a point where we have people taking time out of their day, nervous, getting up in front of the council to bring their concerns because they're not getting any relief. And I'm telling them, they're not answering me. What can I do? So that's, I hope you're hearing this. And another issue too, in the last planning commission meeting, there were some public comments that were sent during that meeting that I was confused about, and I wanted to inquire about it. Some other people were talking about it. Some people sent some public comments. This was over the approval of the Paso Robles Hotel on Pine Street that was just approved. And somebody sent some public comments in about a Paso Robles parking garage. It's supposedly the owners of that property had offered a proposal to use that property, possibly even build a parking structure and work out, the finances with the city. I hadn't heard anything about it, but it was something that had gotten around town a little bit, and so people were asking about it. I was in the parking ad hoc committee, and we did do a review of parking structure status, it was called, and we heard about the city hall lot and the costs involved and all that. But I hadn't heard anything about this proposal, so I wondered if you could shed some light on that. Probably give me any details on that proposal, what those costs were compared to some of the costs we got on city hall and such. I mean, I guess we're down the line a little bit now. They just approved the hotel there, so. But I think that's something that people would want to hear about. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
May we speak on parking?
It's not on the agenda.
Because it's not on the agenda. Okay, I really wasn't sure what all was going to be on here or how to.
So
it is on the agenda. Yeah.
What we have on
There's a lot on here.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, what we have on the agenda tonight
Okay, so
is the employee parking issue.
Yes.
And the 30-minute parking issue, the 30-minute
that
spaces.
is what I wanted to speak on. Is
All right.
that appropriate
Yep,
now?
come back in a couple of minutes.
It's coming up. We'll let you speak when the agenda items are heard.
When it comes up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I do hope we get another canine soon.
Me too.
Because that's huge.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Francisco.
Francisco Ramirez, on behalf of the Hispanic Business Association. I want to say to Mayor and council staff, your city staff is great. I had some concerns about the event that we're planning for Dia de los Muertos in October. I made 5 calls, and I got 5 calls back. So I just want to let you guys know you have awesome city staff. They gave me information that I needed to do, and I want to say thank you for that. I was brought in later to the planning of the event. But that being said, I also want to let you know I did put an invite to the Mexican consulate to come in and join us because they like to promote cultural events also. And today, as a matter of fact, I got an email from the El Salvador consulate, and they are interested to come on down and partake and come here to this county and city. And, I guess they heard through the grapevine that I've worked very well with the Mexican consulate. So they actually got a hold of me today, and I told them, yeah, we'd like to have them come on down and visit us, just so you know.
Very good. Thank you.
Do you recall when the next planning meeting is for the event?
I do not. I have it on my calendar, but I don't.
I think it's tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And I think it's still open for people who want to volunteer for planning.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor Hammond, I do have a caller online.
Okay. Go ahead.
Nancy Barron.
Copy. Nancy, can you hear us?
Yes. Good evening. Thank you for taking my call. I wanted to voice some concerns that I have about the improvements that are going on at Royal Oak Meadows Park, specifically the basketball court. I live in Sierra Bonita. As a matter of fact, I live right across the street from where they're putting that basketball court in. And I'm not particularly happy or thrilled to see that going in for a few reasons. But my concerns are, are they going to have people out there playing basketball at night? Is there going to be lights out there? Are they going to be putting a big fence around it so that it ruins your view? Now, I purchased this house next to the Greenbelt because I was told they're never going to build anything over there. And now there's this basketball court. And not only that, but it's going to be noisy. And I'm kind of fearful that might affect the value of my home. And if I want to sell to a senior citizen, are they going to want to buy a home that's right across the street from a basketball court? These are the things that are concerning me, and I'd like to know some more information about all the questions that I just had. I tried to call down at City Hall, and I left a message for someone to call me because I'd like to know what's going on there exactly, and no one bothered to call me back. And I'm just curious, do you go around the neighborhood asking people if they want a basketball court in their front yard? And do we have any say-so in these kinds of things? Now there's a parking lot that's being built there as well. And that's another, something else that's going to kind of intrude on your view. I understand that improvements are important for the city, but I just feel that I'm just not real happy with it. And I would like to know, what exactly is going to go on with it. Are there going to be people out there at night? Is there lights? That sort of thing.
Okay, what I would recommend, Nancy, if you can actually send me an email and I can get it to the right people and we will respond to you with specific questions if you'd like. That might be easier.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. We'll
and what address do I send that to?
Yeah, it's online actually. It's jhammond@prcity.com, but you can find it online at the city's website.
jhammond.
jhammond
ON
at prcity.com.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Very good. Thank you, Nancy. Anyone else online?
No, sir.
Okay. Warren, we did have a couple questions on the zoning thing that's going on right now. Can you enlighten us on what's happening and also the hotel parking project that, they was approved?
Certainly. So the city's been working on a comprehensive update to our zoning ordinance for the last 2 years or so. We have a consultant working on that. There's been a series of meetings with the Housing Constraints Committee and the Planning Commission to refine that draft so it's ready for the City Council's review. One of the sections is the home occupation section, and that was part of the review by the Planning Commission last week. they made a recommendation to forward that on to the city council. So that will be agendized for the council probably on September 17th. It is an ordinance. The council has the final say on what's in or not included in the final update. We have received a number of comments about home occupations as well as the pet sitting issue. So that will all be provided in your staff report. And we'll likely provide you with some options to consider as we move that item forward.
I think I don't know about me, the rest of you, I'd like to have maybe 2 2-in-1s on that too, to get fully up to speed on all the different things. It's a big deal when you change zoning. So
yes,
if we can have those before maybe the next meeting.
Yeah, that would make sense, and we'll get those scheduled. And then on the hotel, that's the hotel down on Pine Street and 14th Street. That's an approval. It was approved about 2 years ago by the city or by the Planning Commission. That approval lapsed, so they had to come back for basically a reapproval. So that was on the previous Planning Commission agenda as well. They did approve, extending the hotel entitlement. So that's for a 3-story, 56-room kind of luxury hotel there. About 2 years ago, after the initial approval, the property owner did submit to the city just kind of a concept of what a parking structure might look like instead of the hotel there, because he had heard during the hearings about the concerns with parking. It was just kind of a preliminary concept. I think there was just kind of a preliminary discussion about it that never materialized or kind of moved beyond there. But there is a document that was submitted, has a schematic plan and some cost estimates.
Okay, so there is, as far as parking, there is on-site parking. I mean, the rest would be on city streets. Is that how that's planning?
So the proposal, what was approved by the Planning Commission last week, would be to have an off-site valet parking lot with vertical lifts for the cars. That would be between Pine Street and Railroad Street. So there's basically where one of the existing kind of antique stores that are.
Yeah, it's one lot in from the corner, I believe.
Yeah, that building would be replaced with a valet lot. That would not provide 100% of the parking, so there's an additional condition that they find another parking lot within, I think, 1,000 feet of the hotel. So before they get building permits, they would have to find a additional site for additional parking to meet their full need.
Got it. Okay. Mr. Strong.
Yes, also 10th and the old Hayward Lumber Yard, the original proposal on that one was for public parking as well as hotel parking for the hotel and for a farmer's market and other things. But when investors came in, because they didn't have the money to do it on their own, when the investors came in, they nixed that plan and they had to go to a total new plan. And so that's how that disappeared. It's private property and they decided they wanted to develop it a different way. But that was another one they may have been referring to.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Chris, go ahead.
Thank you. Back on the home occupation, I'm not sure that this will apply. I kind of think it does, but the recent SCOTUS decision for Chevron, would that have application here in non-electeds creating those kinds of regulations? When we do the 221s, if we could get an update, I'd appreciate that.
Sure, we can take a look at that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Question? Mr. Gregory.
More of a comment. So I want to make sure our dog sitting folks understand. So we're going to talk about the home occupation, particularly yours and some others. And then we'll be coming back to a meeting on September 17th here. So please attend. And then if you want to send us emails, you can send the city council emails between now and then so we can understand your business and your needs. So thank you.
One last question.
Go ahead, Chris.
This goes back to Warren. Warren, you mentioned the housing constraints has been meeting. Has that been a recent meeting?
Not recent. So when the zoning process kicked off, it began at the Housing Constraints Committee. So the Housing Constraints Committee, I believe, met 3 or 4 times on it. And then it was forwarded onto the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission kind of took it to the final stage.
Okay. Anything on the side? We're good? Yes. Yeah, about the basketball court. Yeah, that's going to be something we can get your answers on too. So, okay. Then we'll close public comments and Move on then to agenda items to be deferred. Mr. Hua?
Mayor, I have no items to defer.
Very good. Okay, moving on then, we have an overview of the items on consent calendar. Mr. Hua, do you have all those information?
Yes, Mayor, we have 12 items on the consent calendar this evening. The first is the approval of the minutes for the August 6th, 2024 City Council meeting. The next item is the receipt of advisory body minutes, and those are for 3 advisory bodies and commissions or committees, that met over the last since your last council meeting. The third item is the receipt of the warrant register or payments made by the city for check runs or payments cut on August 2nd and August 9th of 2024. The total amount of payments equals $2.1 million. There are 5 notable items that exceed $100,000. The first item is a check in the amount of $190,813 and change to Raman Ha Construction. This is for the upgrade water services project in the Sierra Bonita neighborhood. The second item is a check for $202,008.10. That was paid to Sencal Construction, and that was to do the road repairs on 17th Street between Chestnut and Spring. The next item was a check in the amount of $111,956.31 paid to Fervante Grading and Paving for path repair work at Centennial Park. The next item was a check for $302,046.58 paid to Granite Construction Company, and this was part of the Phase 1 road repair work and road upgrade work on Creston Road. The next item, or the last item of notable items for the warrant register, this item was paid to PG&E in the amount of $285,675.75, and this was for streetlights related to the South Vine realignment and improvement project. Moving on, item 4, the consent calendar, and item 5 are the receipt of the treasurer's report for May and June of 2024, respectively. Item number 6 is the approval of the general obligation bond tax rate, for the current fiscal year. The next item is a new event for City Park. That is the Defend America Career Fair. I believe this is a military recruitment as well as recruitment for the police department and other law enforcement agencies in the area. Item number 8 is the approval of an extension to the agreement with Los Angeles Christmas light installers for our well-received City Park holiday lighting program. So this item ensures that those lights will appear, the holiday theme lights will appear come November, I believe, and will be changed out from the ones that are existing. Item number 9 is the approval of award of design services for the City Hall remodel. As you all know, this work has been going on and the space analysis has been going on for many years. This is the latest iteration of that work. This contract is intended to essentially look at existing space and seek to maximize existing space to accommodate staff growth, as well as changes in service delivery models to a building. This building that really has not been remodeled, and the space configuration has not been materially updated since 1995. Item number 10 is the approval of an award for construction and construction management services for the Sherwood Neighborhood Waterline upgrade and repairs. Item number 11 is a construction contract approval for road repairs on Golden Hill from Creston to Rolling Hills Road. I believe this project is predominantly funded through Measure E12. And then the final item this evening is a second reading by title only and adoption of an ordinance amending the Muni Code as it relates to camping on public property and protection of waterways. You all received an approved first reading of this at your previous meeting. This is the second reading of that item. And with that, that concludes the consent calendar.
Okay. Items on consent calendar are considered routine and do not normally require separate discussion. However, any member of the council or the public that has specific questions or wants clarification on an item, we can address that now before vote is taken. Any member of the council or the public wishes to pull a particular item for the full discussion. It will be then pulled to the end of the discussion calendar as tonight's agenda. So I'll start off with council. Anybody wishing to have any questions? Mr. Strong?
Yeah, I've got a question. And that is, are there any guidelines we're providing on the contract on number 9 for the remodel of City Hall? Because I noticed there's a new conference room being proposed. And I'm wondering, are these going to be all upstairs, or is this going to be upstairs and downstairs?
Thank you for the opportunity to clarify. So this really focuses on the second floor. This is not a focus on the library at this point in time. Ms. Berman can talk about the detailed scope of work, but essentially what we're doing is bringing in an architect company to take a look at the existing space to best figure out how to maximize that space to accommodate staff growth and the needs of the public. One of the areas of need is additional conference room space. We frequently have, we have 2 conference rooms right now. They are frequently double booked or booked at the same time. We have additional needs for more conference space. We can use this facility when it's available, but Ms. Fortin and her team are utilizing this space on a very regular basis as well. So it's really looking at encompassing look at that second floor. I just would also mention that I think in 2019, pre-pandemic, there was some work done to look at what an expansion of this building would look like. And I think at that time, the price tag was $19 million, 20. Of course, that at this point, we don't think is feasible at the moment. So this was, we thought, the next best way of trying to accommodate additional staff that we're expecting soon and already actually have on board. So this is a way to maximize what we have without building additional walls.
Okay, is this also to then eliminate any off-site space we're currently leasing?
No, not entirely. However, we are evaluating options, in particularly related to the annex, about kind of what staff needs and look like over there. So we are evaluating that right now. That's not part of this project, but that's definitely on the list of things for us to be reviewing.
Very good, thank you. Councilmember Roden, any questions? Okay. Chris?
I do. I have a number of questions. I'd like to pull 6, if we could, for the end of the meeting. I have a question on 5, 8, 9, 11, and 12.
Okay. Go ahead and start off with 5, I guess. Questions?
Thank you. So on 5, just want to highlight, this is receipt of the treasurer's report. And really what we're doing is we are delegating investment authority to the city treasurer and receive and file the treasurer's report for June 2022. This is a $185 million investment fund, if I'm correct, Ryan? Approximately $185 million. I just don't think $185 million should be buried in a consent calendar. I just don't. It needs to be brought out, highlighted. I think you're doing a great job with the investment fund. It's not about questioning what you're doing, but I think the public might want to comment on that had they had noticed that this was public. So just in fairness to the public, I think that should be brought out next year when we reauthorize your authority. So thanks for the good work.
Yeah, understood. And this was a change in this current fiscal year when it comes to that portion of the policy. When we updated the treasury or the investment policy a number of years ago, we kind of, because we hadn't made any changes to the actual policy in a number of years, we kind of changed the parameters of coming back to council from time to time. But there is still another component of the government code that requires council's approval for me to act as the city treasurer every year, and that's what we added to this.
Sure. I get the government requirement. Just too bad the government requirement doesn't also give the chance for the public to chime in as well.
Understood. And honestly, the investment policy hasn't been reviewed in a couple of years by city council, so we'll probably, I will add that to the next year.
Thank you very much.
8. So
on 8, so we've talked about how, I'm in favor of the downtown lighting. I think it's a great idea. I question a couple things. Given the current fiscal situation at the federal, state, county, and our own local level, is extending this for 2 years is this the right time? Is there an escape clause if something drastic happens where we just need to start cutting expenses?
Yes, the contract does include a cancellation clause, but these funds, minus any extreme circumstances, as you mentioned, are already in the approved budget for the next 2 fiscal years.
Right. And those are coming out of, just refresh my memory, those are coming out of general fund?
Yes.
And so if we were able to find sponsors, that would then, the sponsor money would go back into the general fund?
Correct. And we are now implementing a sponsorship program for the lighting program.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
9.
On 9, Frida, also for you, we didn't, I didn't see it. I looked to see what the amount of the other bids were, similar to what Deedus puts in for like 10 and 11 in the future. Can we get a recap of the bids? I think there was 6 or 7 other bids.
These aren't bids. These are an RFP, request for proposals, and we received those proposals, and we, as city staff and outside people as appropriate, rank them. Then we go into a negotiation with the final candidate for the final scope and price, and then compare that against reasonableness. And we found this price to be reasonable given current costs and the scope that we're asking them to perform.
Thank you for that explanation. That's not my question. My question is, can we see what the amounts were?
The RFP process doesn't include bids. They're not bids.
Okay.
So it's kind of apples and oranges.
Sure.
Yeah, with a bid, a construction bid, you see all of them. But in the RFP process, the policy is to come to a final candidate for the contract, negotiate for the best scope of work and a reasonable price, and bring that to the council.
So we're getting to the scope of work first, and then we come to a price.
Correct.
Okay. I'm not sure I agree with that, but okay. Thank you for explaining that. On 11, I got a couple of questions. I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it in public anyway. Why Golden Hill Road now and not Creston Road? Why not finish Creston Road?
Creston Road is under construction right now from South River to Rolling Hills. And then when we're done with that phase, then we'll go from Rolling Hills to Niblick.
Right.
So this is for Golden Hill from Creston to Rolling Hills.
Right. So, and that's just the way it's been designed from the outset. A couple of people have asked this question for my district, and so I'm just trying to get an answer for them to take back to them.
I guess I don't understand. Creston is on the list.
Right.
And we are doing Creston from South River to Niblick.
Creston, I think what was told to me, Creston Road is so bad. I drive on it every day, so I agree. Creston's bad, Commerce is bad. Golden Hill doesn't seem to be quite as bad as the rest of Creston Road from Rolling Hills to Niblick. And definitely not. Commerce, I think we understand why there's some infrastructure needs to be installed first. So just in just looking at it and driving on it, it seemed like the condition of Creston Road is far worse than the Golden Hill section that you're going to replace.
Are you talking about Creston from Niblick towards to the county? Because that's not on the list. But first of all, Golden Hill,
I'm not.
The street of Golden Hill that's on the agenda has been on the list as part of the adopted 6-year plan.
Right.
When the council adopted the list of streets to be completed using Measure E12. So we're just marching down the years, and this happened to be the year that it's Golden Hills' turn, and so, that's what this is for.
So I think that's what I tried to ask just a second ago. So it's been scheduled this way for a while.
Since 2012.
That's the answer I need. Thank you, Deedus.
All right.
Chris, would you mind if I ask another question on 11?
No, go ahead.
So, Deedus, in that bid, that not only includes Golden Hill Road, but it includes Crescent between Golden Hill and Rolling Hills as well? Or is that just Golden Hill?
It's Golden Hill from Creston to Rolling Hills. Creston is already part
Oh, I
It's
see.
already,
So going up or
Creston is
outside. Got
already in the works.
Okay, thank you for clarification. Thank you for.
And then last question, on 12, last time we discussed this, we had several questions coming up about storage of homeless belongings. I think there was a new ruling came out this week or last week for 60 days. Did we come up with a strategy for storing anybody that we clear the camp? We have to give them 48-hour notice, store their stuff for 60 days. Do we have a way to do that?
The storage requirement has been the law for a number of years, and we already have capacity and have been doing that for anybody who we've moved on or had a reason to detain.
So unhoused that would say otherwise that their stuff wasn't stored properly, probably just a misunderstanding or don't understand how it works.
I apologize, maybe I misunderstood.
So if we clear a homeless camp.
Yes.
We have to store belongings for 60 days.
Yes.
Okay.
We have to store valuables, or like if we take someone into custody or something like that, we have to store their property. But at the camps, most of the stuff is determined to be either toxic or it has issues, and it gets cleaned up by an actual company that comes and does that. But any valuables, a lot of the times the people are actually still at the camp.
Right.
And we will ask them, what are your valuables? And they'll take 90% of the time, they take everything with them, and then they just say, that's all trash. But yes, whenever there are things to be stored, we take them, we store them in our property for safekeeping, and we give them the amount of time by law to come and pick that up. And then after that, then it's scheduled for destruction.
So I think I answered my own questions, probably a misunderstanding of what someone would consider valuable and what they think is going to be stored gets trashed. And there's a discrepancy with that.
Well, it's possible. Like I said, but our people take great care in not just throwing things away.
Right.
And so, yes, I would say there's a misunderstanding or miscommunication. Somewhere.
Okay. Thank you. I may come back and visit you one-on-one just to get a better clarification on that.
Please do.
Thanks, Chief. All right. That's all I got. Thank you.
So, Chris, you said item 6 too?
I want to pull 6.
No, you
You'll
pull.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
6 is pulled for discussion at the end.
Okay.
We'll open up now then to anyone in the public. Anyone have any question on agenda?
Hi, Dave Nelson. I had a couple, I think, simple questions. Number 8 is the budget for the lights the same this year now that we have some lights, or has it gone down? Are we paying the same amount for the lights even though we have existing lights?
Frida, you want to answer that for?
Oh, sorry.
At council's requests, we enhanced the lighting, added to the lighting for this year, so it is more.
Golden Hill.
Yeah, Adidas, you want to answer real quick?
Right. So
it is.
The next part of Creston Road is not paid for yet, not budgeted. Part you mentioned on the rest of Creston.
Okay. Creston is already being paid for by the supplemental sales tax from South River all the way to Nibley. It's on the planning. We're just taking our, getting it all set in phases. But yes, Creston from Rolling South River to Nibley is on the books. It's good to go. We have funding for it.
Okay. That's all I have. All right. Thank you.
Hi, this is relative to number 12.
Linda George, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Linda George, I didn't know the timer started. Linda George, Spring Street, 3126. I actually asked for the ordinance to be pulled from the consent calendar. I think I've informed a lot of people about the Beautification Council, and Austin has made contact with Ken Houston. And what that is a program to get our unhoused and our justice impacted to work for Caltrans and various other organizations. But what I want to talk about here is about a compassionate cleanup. I think it's great that we're jumping ahead on our ordinances. There's nothing wrong with that. But I was out there a few days. I haven't been back since I was out of town, but I spoke with a few, and some were saying that their stuff was not respected. So I gave this particular unhoused person an opportunity to choose themselves. And I think that's what we need to do, because I poured over 30 hours of encampment cleanups on YouTube. I can tell you that Fresno just cleaned their encampment, and I can tell you Long Beach just cleaned their encampment. There are people with severe mental disorders that if you pressure them or agitate them to hurry up and choose, then sometimes those end up in an arrest. And I think that we can at least, I'm going to have a meeting, I should say this now, on August 29th. I already told all the Black Oak Corner that I want to be able to bring them back information to have the police department and or the council when and where decides to clean up their encampment. I also echo Councilman Bausch. Because of their complaints, they have lost keys to scooters and things like that that they count valuable, and it's absolutely true. Every time I have to move, there are things that I've held on for 10 years and then I went ahead and threw them away 20 years later. But I think when I spoke with her, she was very upset about the past cleanup. And I think that we really need to give them a chance to look over the information, where their stuff can be stored, how long it will be stored, and even if we have to throw it away, they need to know that portion also. So, and I hope that on the 29th, when I have the meeting with them on the Black Oak Corner, everybody's invited. I'm hoping that Ken Houston will be here that day. And he's looking forward to meeting the mayor. He's looking forward to meeting everybody. Austin thinks he's wonderful. And I think this beautification council program will work for our city. And, but that what I am, as a candidate for District 1, one of my biggest desires is to make sure that we, Paso Robles, are a services-only unhoused population. And what that means to me is that I don't want to see harm reduction. I don't want to see anything that keeps them doing drugs. I want to see them try to get to work and get the contracts. And hopefully the Beautification Council can be expanded to Paso Robles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Jeff Carr, Paso Robles. Regarding item 8, I know when this was first approved in the last year, a lot of us, when we saw the LA Light Company out there, we were going, what the heck's going on? Because this was not a public process as far as getting these lights out there. I know there was an RFP, that was public, but all that whole process of deciding what to do and approving the vendor and such, I don't think anybody ever heard anything about that. And where the budget came from, it took a long time to find that. I finally found an approval in I think it was a budget review document. We stuck it in there. So that I found that curious. And I think if I would have seen that in 2023, I would have probably said, whoa, wait a minute, your budget can't handle this. This is a big amount of money. And then the other issue that a lot of people brought up was, well, why an LA company? Why not a local company? Did we look for a local company? So now we're hooked. We've got lights. We're addicted. So we can't not have them anymore. So now we're going to do that again, and I've got 2 years going with the same Los Angeles Light Company. Have we reevaluated to see if there is a local company here that can now pick things up? Well, should we be doing that now, or should maybe next year, or put that into the contract that we will review local vendors? Because now we're stuck sending $85,000 a year to Los Angeles. So that was curious. And the other issue I had was the Park Advisory Committee, who, according to the website, advises on everything to do with the parks. And I've been trying to figure out, well, where was their advice on this matter? I didn't see it in 2023. I didn't see it now. So I'm curious. I've always been kind of curious on exactly what that group advises on, because I didn't see them in the dogs in the park issue either. So if there was anything people could clarify on the Park Advisory Committee for me and why they weren't involved in this or the dogs in the park issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon Foster, speaking on the lights downtown. Before I get to just the absolute beauty and that people lose their minds over them, I was half owner in a tree service, and I understand that come winter, that's when our people need to be out there keeping the trees safe, keeping them off power lines before the storms come, keeping Paso safe. And I watched that company spend, I don't know how many days with the bucket trucks up there getting our park safe, getting these trees safe for us and for many, many years to come. They did amazing work. Then you get to the quality that they put in. And as someone who is downtown a lot, I have seen people turn and not go into the park because it was dark. And some guys are having a little disagreement. Well, here's a nice family, and they're like, we can't really see what's going on. We don't want to know. So having that light, it's a safety issue. It makes people feel comfortable going into the park and staying. And when they're in the park and they're staying, they're also wandering around supporting the businesses. Plus, we have had some negative PR, and this is a huge reversal. People are losing their minds. It is so beautiful, and I am just so proud of it. And it supports everything else that we do, every other little festival and fair. Having these going year-round now just adds a touch of magic to it. So I want to thank Frida. I want to thank everybody that has supported this. And I support any kind of fundraisers for it. You know, I don't see why we can't have something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Welcome, Mike.
Michael Rivera. You know, I just want to ditto some of the comments and thank Chris Bausch for bringing this up. You know, sometimes we put things, and I've seen this happen over the years, just put things on the consent agenda, it just goes through and nobody, but you know, 100,000 here, 80,000 here, 3 million there, and just putting it on the consent agenda, it starts to add up. That's a lot of money. People start to wonder. You end up with a big budget deficit. You're going, how do we fill this? So a lot of these points are being brought up because if you go on autopilot, especially in a budget with budget issues, and God bless this young lady here for bringing this up. Why don't you put up some money and have it matched by the community, and let's see how into it they are. And it's going to cost $100,000. So the city says, hey, why don't we put 25 or 50% of it up? We'll match it dollar for dollar if the community wants this. No taxes. They just voluntarily do it because they believe it's a beautiful thing, as this young lady had just mentioned. Why don't we think outside of the box and start thinking about, rather than just willy-nilly spending things, putting it on the consent agenda, and suddenly you've ballooned your budget and you're spending money like drunken sailors and you don't know what you're spending your money on. If somebody asks you what it is, you go, well, I don't know. I don't do it in my personal budget. I know none of you do it in your budgets. You say, okay, well, maybe some of you do it. But you don't say 10,000 here, 20,000 here, 100,000 here, what the heck. Before you know it, it adds up to some money. My goodness, I want to take a trip to Aruba. Well, you know, that might not be in the budget. So why don't we start thinking outside of the box, asking the community more directly on these other ancillary things that if they want to participate, ask them, match it. It's just one idea of many out there that we could do, but we need to start thinking out of the box. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Francisco.
Francisco Ramirez. I want to say a couple of things. To add to Chris when he was asking about the homeless and the property and stuff like that, this summer is over. This summer I got to be a part of a couple of actions being taken by the police department. I was there present, and when I partook with that, being alongside law enforcement, and they were going to help, what's it called? Not homeless, but the small businesses. What were they called? The small businesses on wheels. street vendors.
Yeah.
They were treated with respect. I was there. They were treated in their own language also. Spanish-speaking officers were there. They were taking their identification and written down. It was logged in bags of what was taken from them, and it was logged by 2 officers, each one being witness to each of that person's properties. And they were given, I think, a citation and also information where they could come to the city of Paso Robles and ask information on their property, where they could get it, and how long time it had to be held. So just to add to that, Chris, I was there personally, and I just want to say our law enforcement does a great job.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none. We'll finish the public comment on the agenda for consent items. Bring it back to council for discussion and or
So,
action.
Mayor Hammond, could I have Frida come back up and speak to the program for paying for the lights from the public?
Yeah, first I'd like to address Mr. Carr. It was a public process. We put out the RFP on a public website. We received 6 or 7 different proposals. And then as per our policy with RFPs, we asked representatives from the community, which in this case was Main Street, Travel Paso, and the Chamber of Commerce, to make a decision on the vendor based on what they were considering providing. Los Angeles Christmas Light Installers is called Los Angeles Christmas Light Installers, but they install lights all throughout California. And they have been one of the best contractors I've worked with, hands down. They are here in 24 hours. They provide replacement lights. We had our first instance of vandalism with the year-round lights last week. They are bringing replacement parts next week. So I couldn't ask for a better contractor. As far as the donation program for the lights, as soon as this contract is approved by the council, we are ready to tee up a donation program. Any amount, you can contribute 50 cents or $1, you can contribute more than that. And all that will offset the costs that the city is providing for this program.
Thank you, Frida.
Yeah, it absolutely changed our whole downtown park, and I think it was one of the greatest things we've done in a long time to beautify Paso Robles. So, any other questions?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Mr. Gregory.
So, item 6 is the only one we're going to continue. Okay, so I want to recommend we approve items 1 through 5 and 7 through 12 on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have Pro Tem Gregory with a motion and second by Councilman Strong. Any discussion on the items? Okay, Melissa will call for the question then.
Councilmember Gregory?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong?
Aye.
Councilmember Bausch?
Aye.
Councilmember Roden? Aye. Mayor Hammond?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very good. Moving on to discussion item 1, we have a potential modification of downtown employee monthly parking permit and short-term spaces. Chief Nord, you have that item.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Damian Nord, Police Chief. First, thank you so much for having me back to speak about parking. I thought I was finally done, but here I am. And I know everyone is wondering, we are actually in the process of trying to get another K-9. We're actually going to try to get 2 this year, but it is a long process, and the training and just picking the dog and then the training of the dog, it takes months and months, but we are in that process.
Thanks, Damian.
Council requested this come back. Quick overview, employee permit parking program, 30-minute parking spaces, and there'll be a fiscal impact. Employee permit parking lots were established prior to paid parking implementation. These spaces were established to encourage employees to park in designated permit areas, thus leaving on-street parking available for other users. The program provides business owners and employees a low-cost option for parking in the downtown core at $5 per month. Permit parking is available in 4 designated parking lots that comprise a total of 98 parking spaces. The 30-minute parking spaces, there are currently 35 30-minute parking spaces in the downtown area marked with green curbs and appropriate signage. The 30-minute parking spots were originally implemented to offer short-term free on-street parking. The 30-minute spots are intended solely for the purpose of running a quick errand that will take 30 minutes or less. Examples of uses for these spots include food delivery drivers picking up food, a vendor dropping merchandise off, or a patron purchasing a good from a local merchant. These spots are meant to encourage very frequent turnover so that more people can have a chance to park in convenient locations. Reduction or elimination of these spots may impact the short-term types of transactions taking place in downtown businesses if other parking spots are not available. Obviously, the reason we're here was the termination of the paid parking program. Fiscal impact, there would be minimal impact from staff, possibly taking down signage, which again would just be staff time. And the program generates $12,000 from employee permits net to the city after associated fees. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Damon. Any questions for Jake? Pro Tem Gregory.
So, Damon, I don't know if you can answer this question or not, but so on the employee, I spoke to a couple of the local business owners yesterday and today. On the employee paid parking, a lot of the businesses actually pay for that for their employees. Do you know what percentage of that is?
I don't.
Okay. So I spoke to Fish Gaucho and Odyssey and another business. So I was just curious if you could tell what that is. All right. Thank you.
Okay, let's get I know right now they have to get a permit and we have to register their license plate or something. There's some kind of thing we have so that we know who it is. Down in San Luis Obispo, I have a permit for a parking lot there, but it's a specific parking lot, and it's just a decal. It sits on my windshield. I think the decal cost will be far less than all the process we go through. Have we ever considered possibly just providing a decal?
So I can tell you moving forward, if this is something that the council wants to keep, we will look into something a little different. Prior, we were able to use our car, which was part of the parking program.
Yeah.
And we had staff that actually used that car, and they patrolled all of those things.
Right.
With the loss of staff due to the closure of the parking program, now it's not as often and it's not as frequent with that vehicle. So in the future, that is obviously something we would definitely look at if this program continues.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good, Councilman Bausch.
So, tax your memory here. You probably weren't here when this happened, but my recollection is that the 4 lots that you mentioned, those were paid for through a business improvement district, and the merchants were compelled to pay to purchase those lots, and then the maintenance and the care of those was transferred to the city. That was a mutual agreement. And like other council members here, I've talked to some of the business owners, and there seems to be a mixed bag of whether or not charging $5 a month for something that they were already paid for is fair, et cetera. I think having, if you don't charge something, it seems to me that that it'll be kind of just, first come, first served down there. Would you agree with that?
There would be no reason for it not to be.
Yeah, thank you. The 4 lots that we're talking about, there's one on Spring Street, there's one next to the old Marv's Pizza, there's one by the Elks, and I don't know where the 4th one is. Is it the alley next to Pine Street Saloon?
Yes, you have the Spring Street and 12th, 12th near Marv's Pizza, alley between Pine and Railroad, 13th and 12th, and the 12th Street and Railroad Street.
Okay, yeah. Any thoughts on whether or not we could use more? 95 just doesn't seem like enough to cover all the employees. Have you heard any discussion whether or not that's advisable to do more? Just for employees?
I can only speak to those lots aren't full now.
They're not
very, they are very, I don't want to say very rarely used, but there is always open spaces.
Okay. All right, then shifting gears, the 30-minute spots, you have 35 spaces. Is that 30-minute time limit, how is that being enforced today?
So right now, it is infrequently patrolled and looked at, but it is infrequent. But we also do respond if we have merchants or store owners that call us and tell us there's been a vehicle there for X amount of time, we will go, and and then we'll handle it that way.
That connects a couple of dots. Thank you for that explanation. Okay, that's all I have.
Yeah. Anything from this side? Sharon?
And I know we haven't kept track, but I think you already just said what I have seen too, is that the lots are open. There's quite a few places to park where there used to not be when we had the paid parking. The Spring Street especially seems like it's empty most of the time.
I was there today and there was one car in there.
Yeah. And that's been my experience when I've looked around. Even on Music in the Park night, like at 6 o'clock, there's still parking available there because it's a permitted parking. People aren't parking there. And that's why I wanted to bring it back, is to ask if we need to open those up for everyone to be able to park. Not that there isn't the necessity for perhaps employee parking, but they aren't using them without having enforcement. And if we're not going to enforce, then why even have it? I think Mr. Strong's idea of the decal is great, but again, you still have to enforce. Same with the 30-minute. Maybe just even mentally, people think, okay, I'll be here in 30 minutes and I'll leave, and most people may do that. But if there's no enforcement and then that gets out, then people aren't going to care. But that's why I brought it back. It's just a question. Can we open those up for everyone so that we have more parking downtown?
Ma'am, you guys can do whatever you would like.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that. Yep.
That's the question to them.
Right.
Okay. Fred Strong, anything? Good.
Well, I'll have comments later.
That's what I'm saying. Any questions? Okay. I had a question, Damien, on the 30-minute. Is it still on the time zone? In other words, 9 to 8 is, how do we determine the 30-minute use and time of day? Or is there any policy yet?
The way we kind of look at it is it's the same as the
Old.
for 8 to 8.
The old.
And obviously, when we're busy on the weekends, we obviously do that also. But when you're getting into the nighttime, we're not enforcing it after 10 o'clock at all. So
okay.
if that's what you're asking.
That's what I would suspect. Basically, during the day, when you want that to be turned around, and more often for people that are just down for a few minutes, that's when we should be enforced. But I'll get to that in a minute. But I just was curious what your policy is right now. So it's
the policy right now is obvious. We lost our 2 parking people.
Yeah.
We don't have them. So staff is ultimately asked, as there is time, if they're not responding to calls for service, if they're in that downtown corridor, if they're at any of these locations where we have the permitted parking, they check.
Yeah.
They do look. But it is all based on
compliance,
how busy they are and what we have going on. And again, if we have store owners call us or we have anyone, if there's any complaints, we go. It's a call for service at that point.
Got it. Very good. Thank you. I'm good. Any other questions? Chris Bausch?
How do we determine ownership of those 4 lots? If merchants were charged for those lots back in the day, if we gave them up and revert them back to free, would the money be refunded back to the merchants who paid for them?
Could I answer that? I know they answered.
I was asking Elizabeth first, and then if you want to add in, go ahead.
I'd have to review whatever agreement was entered into. I don't have that agreement.
Can we bring that back and look at that before we make a decision?
Want the answer?
Sure.
Yeah. We had a downtown parking district. Norma Moy was the last director of that. She gave that up, and at that time, we took what was left in that fund, and we gave it to her to start Main Street. That was the city's action back then. And we then took over the lots as city lots in a parking district. We didn't totally dissolve the district, okay?
All right. I have a question for Warren maybe on this. Didn't we have an in lieu fee for parking for development downtown? And that was paid into these lots?
You do currently have an in lieu fee, but that's different than the parking district
It is separate.
that originally established these lots.
Okay. All right.
So Fred, with all due respect, thank you. That does not answer my question.
Well,
So Elizabeth, if you could research that for us and get that back and see what that transfer of property rights looks like.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm unclear as to how those properties came into the city's possession, but we can look into that.
Thank you.
Okay, council's finished with questions. We'll go ahead and open up to public for any comments on this item.
That's a good idea.
Yep.
Dave Nelson, Paso Robles. Thanks for inviting me back to talk about parking. This was one of the issues, of course. Employees were blamed for causing all the parking problems. I still don't believe that's true. However, do have employee parking lots. What I've passed to you,
Mr. Nelson, could you raise your mic? It's hard to hear you. Thank you, sir.
That's as high as it goes.
First, I'd like to say that I think that the repeal of the paid parking has been a success. Businesses report that their revenues are up, more locals are back, people are happy, and I'm passing that gratitude back from them to you. I don't think we've experienced the parking crisis that we thought might happen. There are times when you can't find a parking space. That's always going to happen. Now on to employee parking in 30-minute spaces. I decided to take this to the people. Well, the people most affected, business owners and employees. So I went out for 3 hours and talked to 37 people, now about 47, and I asked them what they thought. And not a single one thought we should remove them. These are people that use the lots, people that don't use the lots. Some businesses have their own parking spaces, but they thought it's a good idea to keep them so that employees have a place to park. When I counted cars on Monday afternoon, very slow day, there were 59 cars in the 4 lots. That's 59 cars not in front of retail spaces. So that's a success to me. As well, we haven't been pushing it. We haven't said what's happening, and it's still $5 versus $0 for the street. So I think we could increase that by changing the price to $0, not changing anything else, not changing any signs. Some of the people I talked to suggested that, drop it from $5 to $0. So let's summarize. And keep in mind too, Monday's the slowest day of the week. A lot of businesses are closed, so there's not a lot of people parking down there. My recommendation is keep the lots, change the price to $0, don't change any signs. All the infrastructure is already there. You just have to change one number, the price. Keep the 30-minute spaces, no signage changes there. Announce these things to the public so they know what's happening. Some of the people I talked to are already aware that we're effectively not enforcing. And once that gets around, they're starting to tell other people that, oh, you can just park in the 30-minute spot, nobody's going to do anything. So at some point we have to enforce them. I think that the times we would need to enforce these things is when maximum parking, right? When the parking gets full, that's when people will abuse these things. Other times it won't matter. So intermittent enforcement at peak times perhaps. And lastly, I talked to Main Street about running a campaign. We talked about this months ago and trying to promote the businesses, promoting their employees using the employee lots. So I think we should keep them. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
That's good.
Here we are. Hi, Sharon
Yeah.
Foster. As a volunteer who spends a lot of time downtown, nope.
You had people in line.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't see y'all back there. I did not look around.
They're letting you go ahead. No, Sharon, go ahead, quickly.
I feel like a duck in a gallery now. So through all the ad hoc meetings, through all of the discussion about employee parking, what I think we should add to it is to bring the employees into the discussion. Now, I'm not saying that nobody has ever talked to them or anything like that, but I have talked to a lot of employees, and they actually have some really good ideas. And whether we like their ideas or don't like their ideas, it's their lives that we're talking about. So I propose that the council reach out by letter, by however, email, letter, however you normally reach out to the businesses and encourage their employees to have meetings. They can have them here, wherever. I'm not to talk about the particulars of how it should be done, but just let them know that it's safe. I've talked to so many people that this is their first job. They're terrified of trying to speak up to what they think may go against their boss or may go against, you know, the people in their town. Also retirees that are coming back into the workforce. Again, when you're the low man on the totem pole, you don't feel you have a strong voice, but you may have wonderful positive things to give, and whether the council uses them or not. My husband was one of the founders of modern day project management. If you want people to get on board, you have to bring them in. You have to make them feel like they are part of it. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm super nervous. I've never done this before. I'm Dominique, and I live in Paso, and I am part manager of Sunshine Olive Oil that just opened in downtown, and I've been Paso resident for 7 years. And I never have found a problem with parking in Paso, ever. When it was metered, not metered, didn't make any difference. I always found parking. And I still don't see a problem today than it was from before, where we were charged or not charged. I inquired about 3 months ago about this because we opened a business and I wanted to know where my employees were going to park. And I said, what about those lots? And they said, we don't enforce right now. Everything's up in the air, so do whatever you want. I'm like, okay. So I told my employees to go park in those lots. Well, guess what? They don't. They park 7 spots over there, 5 spots over here. Not only do my employees do it, but I see all the other restaurants, if you pay attention, you recognize cars, and they are parking on the park all the way around. And they stay there for their whole shift. They don't move their cars. I did notice that the lots are emptier than they were before. So maybe before they were parking in those lots because they knew they weren't going to get a ticket, or I don't know. It's just my observation. Yeah, they are parking. What is the fine if we park in your lot and we're not supposed to be there? Like if I sent my employees to park there today, which I told them, but they don't because it's too far to walk. What is the fine?
Chief.
Is there a fine?
You know, I think it's...
They get a ticket? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious. So they can't park there right now without one. So what do you suggest that people do now if they're supposed to be parking in there if they're lots? Because I couldn't buy a permit because I tried to buy one 3 months ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was full, if you're not selling anymore, then I don't know. It's just a question.
That's why we're here, Dominic. We're going to work this out. Thank you.
Jeff Carr, Paso Robles. Yeah, I've been downtown a lot this week too, and I was talking to people, and yeah, I get mixed opinions about the lots. They like the lots. They want to keep the lots. Employers like it. Employees seem to like it. The ones that I talk to, they aren't all parking there, granted, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think we have to stop thinking in absolutes. You know, I mean, if we can get 80%, 50% in those lots, we're better off than we were. And even if we had, I've never seen anything that shows that those lots could handle every employee that we have anyway. So we have to have people in the property somewhere in the core part of downtown or somewhere in downtown. So yeah, I think we should keep the lots. I think there's a lot more work to do as far as enforcement. I would recommend stay away from those $50 tickets. I know when I was getting signatures for the referendum, that was the biggest driver, was those $50 tickets. I think that was really the end of the program was that $50 ticket. And so yeah, I would hesitate on doing that again. As far as the 30 minutes, I think you should keep those as well. I don't know. I would stick with, I think, like even Dave said, the honor system as much as you can. All the time. I don't see it's a problem. We have lots of curbs around, and I can't imagine they get enforced all the time. 10-minute curbs, 20-minute curbs. So I would be surprised. But anyway, and I think one of the concerns a lot of people had too with the enforcement was the cost. They were thinking of the cost of the city of enforcing those lots, both employers and employees. So they were conscious of that, and that was something I didn't see in this report. I wasn't, because I said no fiscal impact. I guess that was for removing them. But if you're going to keep them in enforcement, there's going to be some fiscal impact that should be considered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
Linda George, 3126 Spring Street. I actually have a simple question. Well, I paid for parking my entire life in Oakland, but I think that the ticket fine is way too steep for an employee parking violation. And my question is there a consideration if you guys decide to charge $5, $1, use a decal? I remember when I worked at Agnews Developmental Center, we had to pay with the Agnews Police Department, I think it was $20 a year for a sticker. Now, I'm not completely against it, except we also got the parking referendum, and I was corrected today because if it's going to be free parking on the streets, then it needs to be free parking for the employees. So if you guys do decide to charge, please consider decreasing the fine. I'm looking at you because you're the, and it's really funny. I think it's been established between me, Chief Nord, and Chief Harris that I'm never going to buck anything they truly want. But I just wanted, those $50 tickets are horrendous. I've got 3 of them that one day I pray to get paid back for. And, but that's all I'm saying is that's a really steep fine for violating employee parking. Thank you.
Michael.
Michael Rivera, Chief Nord, you're doing a great job. All right, thank goodness.
On parking nights, it doesn't feel
I wasn't even going to speak on this, but I had to because I came up with $19,225. You said the net to the city was like $12,000, and so I'm going, where the heck? How much does it cost to administer that? That's a lot of money. That's a big difference. That's thousands of dollars in administrative fees. I'm a little confused about that. So maybe somebody could enlighten me. I got to get into that business. But anyway, I think that, what about this idea? You don't charge anything for employee parking, but you charge them $50 if they park in the inner park.
Can't do that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, I'm thinking out of the box here. I'm trying to get some ideas going here.
That's why the whole parking program was put in place.
Let's try to work on this.
Yep.
That's illegal.
Let's try to get some brain juices flowing. I do like the idea of not charging the employees, but I also like the idea of this young lady who had mentioned empowering the employees and training them. You have some meetings. You say, look, here's the deal. You park outside, you park outside this sector, you park here, you get a ticket, it's going to be very expensive. However, if you park here, it's $0. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me. The other things, where's the golf carts, people are, maybe we have volunteers or the community volunteers that get in the golf cart. If the parking lot's a little bit further away for the employee, they go pick them up and drive them to where they're going, or something like that. Let's think out of the box, let's get some juices flowing here. That's what I like. I like creativity. So thanks a lot. And I know this has been a very contentious issue. I don't mean to make light of it, but hopefully making light of it will get everybody motivated to get a solution, because ultimately that's what we need, is a solution to a problem. And I'm all about solutions, okay?
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor,
Okay, we'll bring
we
it
do have a
back.
caller online.
Okay, yeah, let's get the person.
Jan Albin.
Yes, Jan, can you hear us? Go ahead.
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you. I had the same question that Michael Rivera did, which is about the associated fees, because there's a difference between what they collected for 2024 of $19,000 and the net. So that's $7,200. And I would like it if Ryan Cornell or somebody can explain to me what those associated fees are. And then secondly, talking about in lieu fees. A long time ago, there was a discussion about using the in lieu fees for certain enhancements for downtown parking. And we now have 2 or 3 or 4 new hotels that have come along that are going to pay significant amounts of money in lieu fees. So when you make a statement, for instance, that I'm trying to figure out, what does it say? It says, when you make a statement that says, planned improvements include upgraded lighting, redesigned layouts, and so on and so forth. And then it says the design phase is nearly finished and the project will soon be put out to bid. What are we enhancing in those parking lots that we didn't do before, and why are we doing it now? If we're not going to kind of require that employees park in those lots, what are we improving the lots for? So those are a couple of questions that I have. Most importantly, I want to know what has happened to the in lieu fees, and why can't some of those, what's going to this year be about $1 million in lieu fees, why can't that go towards the employee parking lots, making sure that the lighting and the pavement and maybe even, as Michael said, a little shuttle back and forth. I would like to see that happen more than anything. Secondly, I do not think for 1 minute that employees should have to pay to park in those lots. If they can park for free on the street, even for $5 a month, they're going to park for free. And why would you charge an employee to park when you aren't charging the public? So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Melissa, anyone else?
No, sir.
Okay. Now we'll close the public comment and we'll bring it back to council for discussion or.
Can I have our assistant city manager speak to that last question?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So there was a question in the staff report. We included some information about some improvements that were planned for 2 of these lots. If you recall, this council, 1.5 years, 2 years ago now, heard both testimony from the public and provided direction that those lots were underlit and that there were some opportunities to enhance those lots to improve the user experience, I'll call it, for the employees that are parking there. And so Ditas and her staff and team have been working diligently to try to get those parking lots improved. And we are literally finishing up the design work last week. I can't see Ditas. She's still there. Okay, she left. But finishing up the design work, they're ready to go out to bid. That project is budgeted and approved. It's not paid with in lieu fees. That's a separate discussion. I can try to address that as well if you'd like. But I'm looking at Mr. Fraze. I don't believe any of the large hotel projects downtown are generating any in lieu fees. I believe all of them are meeting parking requirements on site and not having to pay the in lieu fee or not choosing to pay the in lieu fee. There may be 1 or 2 that onesie twosies that may, but it's not anticipated to generate any significant revenue to my knowledge. And then in terms of where those parking and lieu fees that were available went, I do know, and I believe Mr. Cornell can confirm, when we were going through the parking discussion and some of the dialogue over the last 1.5 years, we had covered the fact that I believe some of those parking and lieu fees went to help establish some of the paid parking program startup costs. And so I don't believe there's any sufficient revenue in that fund, and I don't anticipate any significant revenue in that fund. But Warren, maybe Mr. Fraze may be able to confirm if I'm incorrect.
Question real quick, Warren. Is this just in the downtown corridor, the downtown district, that we have the in lieu parking fee?
That's correct.
That's what I thought.
In the downtown core. So the big hotel under construction, Hotel Ava, is providing all the required parking on site, so they're not paying any in lieu fee. There are a couple other hotels that have been approved that will pay some in lieu fees, but you don't actually pay the in lieu fee until you pull your building permit. And those projects haven't moved to construction yet, so they haven't paid. And if they don't go to construction, there won't ever be a collection. And I do think that the current account for the in lieu fee is fairly minimal right now in terms of what we have in the bank.
Got it. Okay. Go Tim Gregory.
So I want to thank Mr. Nelson for this. He just gave me an idea. So I spoke to a couple of the businesses, and the businesses are actually paying for their employees to park. If we take your idea and lower the price of the parking for employees and give the responsibilities to the employers, not the employees, when you get hired on, you have to put a little sticker on your car to park your car and apply for a permit for those number of stickers that are available. I know the one business owner I know is paying $5 a month to this day for every employee that's parked in the parking lot. And it's probably it's the one off a railroad that's always kind of full. But I think if we make it palatable, like everybody's recommending, I think the businesses would jump on it. I know Donovan would. I know several businesses would love to have that. We have a new business in town that would like to reach out. So I think that's something we could consider, and to decide on it tonight. But the palatability of low cost, keeping the employees off the parking on the streets, and we control it by decaling on their cars with new employees or existing employees. And I think it's a win-win. It's easy to enforce, and of course you'll have to give me your opinion on that one, Chief. But but I still like that idea. Just on I won't talk about the 30-minute parking, but I love the idea for the employee parking, because we've always paid in the past in my wife's business for everybody's parking, and this is a lot easier for us to do cost-wise. So that's a suggestion I'm
This
making.
is kind of weird. I got to say something here real quick. It's like I feel like we're going around the sun one more time, right? Yeah. And we're back here again. Yeah. The reason we started this whole paid parking thing was this very reason about the employees parking downtown. And then we're right back again with the same old thing. We cannot legally tell them they cannot park anywhere in the downtown. Is that correct, Damien?
Yes.
Exactly. That was the reason why we did a paid parking project. And we got rid of that. So at this point, they can park there with a permit, from the employer or not. They can still park there, and there's nothing we can do to say you can't. The only thing we can do, I think, again, is those 30-minute parking spaces. And I totally agree that we should keep those going and we should enforce those, because that's where the people that I've heard from downtown, they want to come down, pick something up. They just want to be there for a few minutes. They need to find a place. And if we then start policing those pretty heavily, and we do ticket a few people that abuse them, that word gets around the downtown pretty fast. I think that's got to be a good thing to hang on to. As far as these parking lots, what happens if I want to park and I'm not an employee and I park in a parking area designed for the employees? What happens to me? Vice versa. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's a very complicated thing, but on the other hand, I thought we got rid of parking and I'm open to anything except for those 30 minutes. Fred, go ahead.
Yeah, and actually, I was one of the people who wanted this brought back, because if we stopped all the paid parking on the street, then why are we making employees pay for it, when they're the very ones we want to get off the street?
Exactly. So
you don't punish them for getting off the street. And I talked to Mr. Nelson, and he and I came to a lot of agreement on everything that he said here. Not everything, but almost everything. And the one thing is, this is a free country. We have a constitution. The Constitution gives us freedom of speech, gives us freedom of assembly. It also gives us freedom of choice. And when we have freedom of choice, that means we can make good choices or we can make bad choices. Now, if you make too bad a choice, there's going to be a punishment because it has consequences that are very negative that impact other people's rights. And that's when the criminal penalties come in play. I don't want to get rid of the signs. And I think it would be fair to pay the cost of the decal for the employees. And while we can't tell the employees to park in those lots, the employer has every right to tell their employees what they can do while they're on the job, including what kind of clothes they can't wear on the job or should wear, as well as telling them how they're going to greet a customer and how they're going to represent their company and how they shouldn't block the customers from coming in the store by parking in front of it. That they should therefore park outside. But at the same time, don't punish them for having them do this with their employees. So paying for the cost of the decals, I think, would be appropriate so that we don't have a cost on our own for this. Because this is still their problem as much or more than it is ours, as it always has been, which is why we shouldn't have gotten into it in the first place. We should have just talked to the, and I think Main Street did try to talk to them. And a lot of them felt, oh, I don't have any right to tell my employees what to do. No, that's not true. You do it every day. They just didn't feel they had the right to tell their employees that part of it. Well, they're on the job then. When they're on the job, they do have that right. And I think we have to get that across to the employers. Because if they tell them, you don't park on the street, you don't park in front of your store or in front of our competitors, because that'll just encourage theirs to park in front of us, you park in the lots. Or you park outside of the area. Or you do what we do in a lot of other places. And that is, we have rideshare. We have people who commute together. If they're all on the same shift, one person picks them up. You park one car, not 4 or 5. And we have buses. People take the bus. There's a lot of ways to get to work. You don't have to bring your own car, every single employee. And that's why you don't need as many spaces as you have employees. But obviously, the lots have never been totally full. I don't think at any time, even back when we had the program. So there's no reason why we couldn't let them just buy decals, have enough decals available, and anybody with a decal, your employee, that's where you park, or you park outside the area. Simple as that. I just would like to say us take the charges off. And then it's an honor system for the public. Now, if you're going to give a ticket for the 30-minute, I think it should be a warning just to embarrass people. Don't punish them with $50 fines, because you'll have the same thing happening again, and the locals, who are the only ones that really know what's going to happen, saying, I'm not going downtown anymore, or I'm never going to park in one of those spaces, and if the others are full, I'm going the other way. I'll go somewhere else. And we're back to some of the old problem. So hope that people are responsible and don't abuse their rights. But I still would like to see us leave the signage there and give warnings to embarrass them rather than fining them. That's my attitude.
Okay. Sure. What's your ideas?
I don't think they'll be embarrassed, Mr. Strong. I think they'll feel a little bit of pride that they got away with something. And honestly, the reason I brought this up is that we did away with enforcement because of the cost of enforcement and because of the issues that it created with tickets. And even though some people got tickets for the regularity, some people just don't learn. But there has to be a response to an action. I don't mind the decals, but when I spoke trying to find some middle ground with employers downtown, they responded much like Mr. Strong said, as well, we can't tell them what to do or where to park. And I said, you can't, or you choose not to. And he says, I don't want to have to look and see where they're parking. So that was the issue. It wasn't that they couldn't tell them. It was their own enforcement of their employees that they didn't want to have to deal with. They're trying to run a business. I do wonder why she wasn't able to buy a permit. I don't know if we have a certain number that it was cut off. Pardon? I didn't hear.
3 months ago.
Ah. Um,
Councilmember.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just real quick. We put a lot of things on hold because we didn't know where this was going.
Right.
So we didn't want to charge people and then cancel it.
Gotcha.
And then have to, because we were already going through, refunding a lot of thousands of people.
Right.
So we really were just trying to figure out where this was going.
Okay, I got you now. That answers that. Again, I mean, it's up to this council, but we did away with enforcement. We did away with paid parking. I don't know why anybody has to pay for parking, and I don't know why we need to single out lots for people, because now you go down to Marv's Pizza in that area and you can get a parking place there just about any time, where you couldn't before. Same thing on Railroad. The only place that I've seen parking that there were some openings is the one on Spring Street. Now, I heard employees didn't like to park there because they had to cross the street. And I don't know the validity of that, but I mean, I don't care either way, but I just feel like, why are they having to pay? Why are we saving those spaces that are not being used? If there's 95 spaces or whatever it was, and even when you went down and checked, there were 37 people parked there, that's a lot of spaces that are open. 59. So a little over half. Anyway.
Hang on.
The in lieu parking fees is something that I brought up months ago that we haven't adjusted for downtown hotels. I think it's still at $14,000. And also the vernacular that is per room, when it could be a 2-bedroom, that oftentimes in our world here means that there are 2 parking spaces, or should be, because people are coming to share. I wish we could get that talked about and perhaps look at it a little differently. I'm not sure that all the parking spaces are accurately being represented, because you not only have the hotel, but you have restaurant, you have convention area that are not being represented perhaps in that. So that may give an undue burden to the downtown parking and be just the opposite of what everybody wanted. Anyway, I think we did away with parking fees for a purpose, and I don't know why we're retaining this one, but it's up to the council of what they really want to do. Thank you.
Councilman Bausch.
So I've heard some really good ideas tonight, reaching out to employees, asking employees what they actually want seems to make an awful lot of sense. Keeping the 30-minute parking spaces, all 35 of them, that makes a lot of sense. Eliminating the cost, the monthly cost of a downtown parking permit. I don't know that you would go strictly to zero. I think Mr. Strong's idea of charging an admin fee of, maybe $10 a year, I don't know. But it goes to a point that part of a discussion I had with one employer downtown. What do you do about employees that leave, that are terminated or quit or move on, or it's a summer job? How do you make that? Do you make it an annual permit? So this year it says 2024, next year it says 2025, and you pay another $10 again next year? Okay. I think there's validity to that. But keeping the 4 downtown lots, I think, is imperative. If you have to pay for that lot versus parking on the street and no questions asked, you're going to park on the street. I think Ms. Alvin was absolutely right on that. So keeping the lot, keeping the 35 30-minute spots, going to a decal system that needs to be discussed further. I think those are all very valid points.
Okay, well, this is what we're here for, is to give staff direction. So, to me, what I'm hearing, a consensus here, is definitely we'll start with the 30-minute parking spaces. I mean, if we can get a straw vote that we want to keep those, I think that's important. So at this point, I would tell staff to police that in their manner of policing that they typically do. And Damien had some ideas on how they do that typically. But getting back to the employee parking, again, what would we like to have staff reach out to? I mean, is it something we want to keep? To me, personally, I'll say that I don't think it's important because we really can't enforce it. Really, you can't. I mean, it's public parking and anybody can park there. But the point is, you're trying to do the right thing, which is what we started this whole problem with 4 years, 5 years ago, whatever, that we were asking them to do the right thing. They didn't do it. I don't know if that's going to happen now or not, whether we charge anything or give them a special area. I don't think that'll still be any benefit. And it's causing staff more time and effort to police it. It's just something to me, I think we just...
I want to say this. I think that it's absolutely necessary we keep those 4 lots and figure out some way to either work with the employers or the employees for them to stay there, John. It's 98 parking spots, and it's not a big deal, but on the weekends or Friday nights, and on a Monday afternoon, you have 59 people parking in those lots. And you have companies that have been doing it for years.
Yeah, I know that some are doing the right thing.
And the employees are not complaining. Yeah. They're just doing it, but they're paying for the employees. And I think that if you just take the Nelson concept of reducing the rate, get the employers to get involved. I mean, I know one employer right now would save a lot of money. It's Odyssey World Cafe, but she wants employees to stay in the lot, and those lots are right there, and we're going to improve them anyway. So one of the big concerns from Donovan at Fish Gaucho was the lots weren't safe, they weren't well lit, they need to be improved. It's on the budget, it's going to happen. So we'll now have some really nice parking spaces, and maybe the employees will like that. We just need to figure out and come up with a number that's fair or a process, and I'll leave it up to Chief how to figure that out. But I'd like to see something happen with those lots where we keep those parking spots for employees.
Damien, you have
Mr. Mayor,
comment on that? Yeah.
So just full, and to answer, this is actually back to Ms. Alba's comments. It is $12,000 a year for us to have those lots. That's how much it costs with the company that does all of the, if it's going to be a pay lot, they go through them, because if not, it's staff time, which would cost far more than $12,000 to do all of that stuff. And then ultimately, and again, if we keep those there, and we want consistent enforcement in peak hours, there's going to be, we're going to have to hire a part-timer. There's going to have to be some sort of cost to that. So I just want to make sure, the council is fully aware of that. And again, to answer Ms. Alba's question.
Okay. So direction-wise, do you still want to have staff come back with an idea of cost then to be able to police that?
I think so. I just want to, I think we'd be going in reverse if we give those parking lots away back just to general public parking, because it was the whole reason for doing this in the first place. And I think that, those 98 permits will go away very quickly with like just at Odyssey alone, it's 24 people. They buy those and they can use the lots. The one lot that's not getting used a lot is on Spring Street, so you could bring that into discussion. But I think the legal questions to me is not so important as the employer question, saying this is what we want our employees to do, like Fred said, and if we can use those spots, I think it'd benefit the businesses in town to keep people off. I talked to one of the businesses today, and she said if she could find a place or pay for her employees to park, they would all go along with it, because believe it or not, there's a lot of businesses in town where they're team players, the employees are, and I think they help. So that's what I'd like to recommend.
So my comment to that, though, is are you expecting then those 98 permit holders to pay the cost of the $12,000 a year? Or are you going to ask the city to subsidize that?
I think the city subsidizes it.
Okay, Chris, go ahead.
I think you're going to have more people than 95. You're going to sell more than 95 permits. That's why I agree with you. There needs to be some cost associated with that. Should it be borne by the city? No. Should it be borne by just the permit holders? No. Should be some shared cost? Yes. And I think that's what bringing this back to council. One other thing that I would want to say, I made the point earlier, if the merchants have already been billed for these lots, before we make a decision, I really want to find out what that history is and how we can unwind that legally. Hopefully, it's not in that same LTH file where the Daniel Blackburn donation went, and we can determine what the original parameters were for that downtown business improvement.
Yeah, I hear you. Brett, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'd like to see staff also put out a questionnaire to the businesses, downtown businesses, maybe through Main Street, for the employees to get some of their input. It would be valuable for us to hear their ideas, because we're not going to make a final decision yet. We're asking staff to bring back some things to us, and we're not actually asking them to bring back a final document of what we're going to do. But if they can bring back their ideas based on what we're saying here tonight, and also get some additional input from employees, I think that was a great idea. There may be some great ideas out there. And let's hear them, and then make our final decision. But in the meantime, I would hope that at least on a temporary basis, we could either lower or end the cost of the permits, at least.
Well, I think what I heard from Chief is that everything's on hold with permits. You're not putting anything out until we have the more clear direction on what you want.
We're not putting it out right
exactly.
now. No, but we are, and obviously, we are still enforcing those that paid for them. We're still enforcing those lots so that they have them to park in.
Okay. So do you think you have enough information then from council, kind of what?
No.
Okay.
Well, see, here's the other thing. Mr. Mayor?
No, I think what we're asking, Damon, is that we want to have information brought back on this employee parking area, all right? And I think, Elizabeth, we're going to have to get the legal side of who owns it, and if it reverts back, what's going to happen. I think as far as the 30-minute, we had consensus on that we want to enforce those.
To the best of their ability.
So
no extra personnel.
Yeah.
Well, no extra personnel.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be able to. Mr. Cornell would be mad at me if I started hiring extra personnel right now.
Right.
Mayor,
right. I know.
Mayor.
Yes.
Chris, you got over here. If I may, just to kind of recap, so as I understand it, just to provide some framework here, staff has been directed to review the ownership of the parking lots and understand that transaction, research some sort of reduced cost or free decal-based permit system, look at obviously keeping the 30-minute spaces and conduct outreach to stakeholders in the downtown area. Outreach may take a little bit, just to be clear, so it'd likely be another couple months, and then we'll be back in front of you, possibly sooner. I just wanted to give you an idea of kind of what we were thinking, but that's what I have. If I missed anything, please let me know.
I think just to your point on the outreach, it was mentioned by a couple of different people to maybe have a town hall type of meeting where employees could attend if they wanted to.
Yeah, we would look at doing potentially an in-person type session, potentially supplement that with a survey. We'd look at all those options.
So I think we ought to separate the actions. Let Chief work on the 30-minute parking and how to enforce it, and then do your other stuff on the employee parking.
Well, the whole thing need to be coming back for us to make a decision on, but they're gaining all this information, right? I mean, that's what it's about.
Yeah, but you could have the 30-minute parking.
Look how excited the chief is.
I know, exactly.
Give them something to work with.
And I would say too, if there was something that came up in the review as it relates to how the parking lots were transferred, that would predicate a more urgent discussion. We would bring that back just so we're not going out and doing the stakeholder engagement or, spending more staff time on creating a program that wouldn't be cohesive.
Councilman Strong.
I have one concern left, and that's this lady's problem or any other new business in downtown. How do they get permits for their employees to park in the lots?
It's an in-progress working situation.
In the meantime,
yes,
they don't have
Maybe another note too, maybe not the perfect solution, but there is a city-owned parking lot at the train station, although that's another maybe block and a half down from downtown. There are no time restrictions and no permit requirements on that lot. So that is another option in the interim should there need to be an outlet for employee parking.
And I hate to remind us, but there's also one right behind this building.
That is true. This lot out here does not have any sort of time or permit restrictions. We do see employees of downtown businesses parking there, but that's the nature of that type of lot.
Plus,
and
there's plenty of on-street parking within 2 blocks of the whole park anyway.
Yes.
So there's plenty of outside parking.
Mr. Bausch, my watch actually told me my heart rate's up too. But I am excited because when I bring it back, I'm going to ask that the parking program goes under another director.
I was trying to get rid of it for you, Damon, but yeah. Okay. Then we're good. All right, so we have enough direction to staff, and I think we've got to get something coming back. Appreciate it, everybody. So that's it on the item 1, and now we have item 6, which was pulled on consent. Let's go back to item 6. That is the approval of general obligation bond rate tax for fiscal 24-25. Ryan Cornell.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Ryan Cornell, Administrative Services Director. Back in June of 1998, the voters approved a general obligation bond that funded several projects, the Nivik Bridge, the Public Safety Center, the Senior Center, the Vet Center, and the like. Since that time, we've refunded the bonds in 2007 and 2019, and this is the annual rate setting to pay back the debt service on those bonds. And so this is an annual action that City Council takes every year. Over the last 5 to 7 years or so, we have been decreasing the overall tax rate down to only cover the minimum debt service that is required for this upcoming year. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Chris, you had pulled. Do you have any questions?
Questions and observations. So thank you very much. Back in 1998, it seems like you got a lot more for your $38 million. Thank you for your brief list, but let me add to that. We had Niblick Bridge, 13th Street Bridge, Public Safety Center, Barney Shorts Park, Airport Industrial Development Improvements, Senior Veteran Centers that you mentioned, and even Cuesta College infrastructure improvements. I'm not sure what those were. I couldn't find any information on that. So my point is that we had a $38 million bond for 30 years. We've now paid about $30 million just in interest payments over that course of time. I just want to make sure that I got that number right.
Yes, that is typical with most geo bonds and infrastructure projects that municipalities take under.
So if we got all of that and I think we still owe a little bit more on this for another 2 years, 3 years.
The term of the bonds was 30 years, so it's set to expire, or at least the tax assessment is set to expire in 2028.
Okay. All right. So bonds are a good way to get work done that would not otherwise be able to be paid for. Is that
that is
accurate?
correct. And I just, Mr. Bosch, I do want to clarify that this action in front of City Council tonight is to do the bond repayment, not necessarily how the projects or the bond proceeds were.
I appreciate that observation. Thank you so much for that. But we're going into another consideration, so I think it sheds light on what we do and how we get that money paid back. This is just an opportunity to make that observation. I'm not going to have that opportunity again. So I appreciate you indulging me.
Okay. Pro Tem Gregory.
Yeah, so Ryan, a quick question. What is our balance left on that bond? Is it around 5?
It's like ironic. I was actually working on the act for this afternoon on that bond. I think it's right around 6 million.
6 million, okay. So, and the reason for my question is, so the rate, do you set the rate? Don't you have to refinance to set the rate, or are you just?
So when the initial bond issuance, it sets initial rate, and then in 2007, whenever bond markets are favorable, we'll refinance the bonds. So we did it again in 2019 as well.
So are we required to refinance again now, or can we keep that lower rate?
No, I think right now we're at a point right now where we're at the tail end of the debt service, so it's not going to be advantageous to refinance, given there's only 4 more years left.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Bonds are a great tool. I mean, it's amazing what you guys did with that last time. I mean, you basically took a certain amount of money and expanded it to so much more because we were able to have
Yeah, and that's correct too. And then, kind of give Tom Ferrucci, our prior city manager, some kudos too. He had a philosophy that when you're able to take out bonds like this, the people that actually use the infrastructure, that use the facilities, are the ones going to be paying for it. So
exactly. Yeah. Anyone else have a question? Okay. Anybody on the public wishing to have any questions on item 6? Seeing none, we'll come back to council for direction.
Yeah, motion to approve general obligation bond tax rate for 2025 as staff recommendation 0.0.
Second.
Motion by Bausch, second by Strong. Any discussion? Call for the question, Melissa.
Councilmember Bausch?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong?
Aye.
Councilmember Gregory?
Aye.
Councilmember Roden?
Aye.
Mayor Hammond?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very good. All right. Now, we are down to city manager report. Assistant City Manager Chris Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor. One item this evening that I wanted to share. We started this meeting with a police video, and I'd like to end it with one.
Paso Robles is just.
Thank you. So as part of the budget and the goals cycle, the council adopted a goal to enhance police recruitment and allocated some resources to do that. One of those ways we're doing it is through social media and visual outreach, I'll call it. And our team recently completed this police recruitment video. And so I would like to share that with you now.
Paso Robles is just different. It's a place where officers want to live where they work. Most people still value and respect law enforcement in Paso Robles. It makes you feel good, and it carries you through the harder moments of the job. We're definitely a team, and we're also a family. The city has our back too. Living where I work and believing in the place I protect, to me, this is what it means to be a Paso Robles police officer.
And this is, I think, a little bit shorter version. We have a little bit longer version. I think the positive thing already is since this launched, we've had some pretty notable interest in lateral recruits. We've already had, I think, about a dozen inquiries, including, I think, one from Minnesota. So the word's getting around. We hope those convert into actual filled positions. But between some of this work and the lateral program that this council approved for some incentivization, we're hopefully seeing the gears turning and these positions getting filled. So we'll continue to provide updates. This is not the only thing we're doing, but this is the first thing we're doing to try to meet that goal that you all set for us.
Question, Chris. How are you putting this video out? How are they seeing this?
Predominantly social media. We'll probably be doing some paid social media. I do believe we're actually putting it into some local movie theaters as well. So if you sit down and see a movie beforehand, it may or may not be in the Atascadero movie theater.
Poaching over there.
But we're trying to get it out in all platforms. And that's the nice thing. They do a long video and they do a couple short videos, and it just depends on the platform, which one you use and what's going to make sense for that platform. So it's gotten quite a bit of views already, and we're going to continue to push it and use it as one tool for recruitment.
Well done. Well done.
And with that, that'll conclude my statements for this evening.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. All right, now we go on to council business and committee reports. Who would like to start? Sharon? You got nothing? All right. Fred?
Well, I'll keep it as brief as I can.
Keep it under 10 minutes.
Youth Commission, Wednesday, 7th. They chose new officers, and they approved the past minutes. Then they considered a long potential list of goals and projects for 24-25 to be discussed and finalized in September. And I did suggest, because they were so long and so complicated, that they really try to keep it realistic so that they could actually accomplish them. The library board met Thursday the 8th. One member was absent, and that was delayed the appointment of liaisons to the Library Foundation and their goals until next month. Main Street met Monday the 12th, considered purchase of necessary equipment for remote meeting attendance, and adopted a new logo for the organization. SLOCOG met Wednesday the 14th, and it considered free fares on buses during rideshare week, and they approved that. And then they approved a new qualified consultants list, and then also seeking grants for electric vehicle charging stations throughout the county, and seeking a regional growth forecast consultant for less than $70,000. They did approve new South County projects, and North County projects to be approved at the next meeting that they have, which I believe is October. And that's the end of my report.
Very good, Fred. Thank you. Councilman Bowers, Chris?
Sure. So like Councilmember Strong, attended a special meeting on August 7th with the Youth Commission. Later on that evening, there was a planning meeting for Dia de los Muertos. The next meeting for that will be tomorrow at Main Street at 6 o'clock. Thursday, the 8th, library board meeting. Friday the 9th, had a really fun day with our library and summer reading finale pool party. Got to serve lunch. The staff was just amazing. Everybody was bright, happy, excited. Lifeguards were really happy to have the pool party. So thanks very much to you, to Eric, and to all your staff for putting that together. Monday, we had Senior Citizen Advisory Committee meeting. We had a Parks and Rec Advisory Committee meeting, and had a downtown Paso Robles Main Street Board meeting. On Wednesday, joined Mr. Hammond down at the IWMA meeting. Still learning, so I'll let the mayor discuss that a little bit. And then Friday, the 16th, coffee with the city manager. This time around is hosted by Paul Sloan, discussing economic development. Paul does an amazing job, just really bumps up the energy level for all the amazing stuff that's happening here in town and what the future holds for us. So thank you.
Pro Tem Gregory.
Yeah, just a couple stories. I was out at a big winery today, and one of the staff members came out and said, my son was on the youth commission, and he loved it. And I said, and we loved him too. So anyway, it's nice going through the community and hearing all that. So, and then on another positive note, I was visiting with Dan Dow, our district attorney, and the first questions out of his mouth was, did you see the video for Paso PD recruiting? Because I love that thing. Anyway, so I thought you should all hear that. Just for a date of importance for some of us who knew Barbara Partridge, they're doing a celebration of life on September 1st at the backyard, and that's being hosted by her son, Russ. And please attend if you can. The other meeting I had was with Supervisor John Pashong. He was waiting for the second reading of this ordinance, and he's asked to receive that from the city of Paso Robles for a unification of the county, and I think Atascadero might want to review that as well, so that we're kind of all on the same page for that encampment removal. So, and I think that's it for me. So,
okay, great.
Thank you.
For me, I had IWMA last week, I believe it was. Normal things going on there, just nothing but garbage, basically. Also had a meeting with Senator Laird, and the RAF actually was out there too at the same time. Laird was here to speak and listen to our spaceport efforts out there at the airport. Very good meeting. We also had coffee with the city manager. That was very informative. Paul Sloan, very well done. I do want to also recognize Brian Cornell, Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. Yep. Very well done. that's quite an effort, I think. That's in the state, isn't it, level?
National.
Yeah, national. Very well done. Again, thank you very much for putting Paso Robles back on the map for that. Also want to thank Congressman Panetta. He gave us, beyond actually the training for the fire station training area, he gave us $530,000 for the airport master plan, which is a huge puzzle part to the spaceport effort. So that grant now is going to be able to push that all the way forward and should hopefully have it about, I think, a little over a year now at this point. So that's all I had to recognize. Upcoming events, we have the Sales Tax Oversight Committee, August 21st, 5:30. We have the airport, Paso Robles Airport Commission meeting this Thursday at 22nd at 6:30. Paso Robles Planning Commission meeting again here in this room on the 27th, a week from tonight, 6:30. City facilities closed in observance of a Labor Day, September 2nd. That's a Monday coming up on the 24th. We also have the Paso Robles City Council then the following day, September 3rd. And I believe that's all we have unless somebody...
Mayor Hammond, I would like to also announce another date.
Sure.
I think it's August 29th at Bauer Spec from 6 to 8. They're reviewing the code for that area on Olive Street. So
right, Warren, you want to put that? I think I saw that come out on the email today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Uptown rezone process, which we're referring to as the Olive Street rezoning process, we have a consultant that's been working on that. We're ready to now meet with the neighborhood, so that'll be next Thursday at the Bauer Spec Elementary School. It'll be an open house. We're going to notice it so it Brown Act wise, council and commission can drop in and observe the process.
Very good. All right. Okay. Anything further for the good of the order here tonight? No. So let's make a motion then.
So moved.
So motion by Strong, second by Pro Tem Gregory. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Had a helicopter?